AJ in the parking lot.
He's on vacation, I think.
Was he?
Given
Oh,
that-
that's somebody else.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 13th Trees and Public Greenery Committee. First order of business is acceptance of minutes from June 11th. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Any corrections? Okay, minutes are approved. We have several tree removal requests, and perhaps I think half of them are resident requested, so perhaps we can move those up.
Yeah, to whoever. So I guess you're here, so maybe we can start with you. What tree are you here
It's the
to?
one right on the parking lot, borders my property, 18 Mount Vernon Street.
That one's here listed as City Hall lower parking lots. One Norway spruce.
Maple, or is it a? spruce?
No, that is a
Spruce.
Norway spruce.
Is-
Yeah,
is
right in
it
the back
going
corner
to
over
be
there. Yeah,
Next to a couple maples.
say again, Dennis?
It's next to a couple maples.
Oh, yes, yeah, it's very, like the photo that I included on the slide is very obscured by surrounding maples, but if you look at the very top of that photo, you can see that the spruce has some browning needles all throughout. I'm chalking this up to needle cast, so it just looks like a declining, yeah, right there in the corner. There might not be a great photo of this here, but on the back at the end of the slideshow, there is a little bit better of a photo, I think. But yeah,
Does your slideshow have all the trees?
yes.
It does.
It's wonderful.
It's quite fantastic.
Yeah.
I am so loving that. I appreciate that effort, Max.
And
And then I think it's gonna be one of the final slides.
Slideshow especially is just terrific for citizens that want to look at.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's so easy. It's
Yeah.
really lovely. I'm just thrilled.
Yep, there it is. So it's in that back corner of the sort of the lower parking lot area of City Hall where the steam stack used to be, that was recently torn down, so near the power plant, I think is what we call it.
boiler building.
Boiler building, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I endorse a removal of this tree. It's certainly not in great health or vigor. And I think it has a needle casting disease and then also just just appears very stressed out and not likely to make any kind of significant recovery.
Max, does that needle cast, does that spread to other trees?
It
or-
can, yeah. I think another great example of what I believe was a needle casting disease was the large spruce in Langdon Park that we still haven't removed on top of the hill. So as you can kind of see now, it's literally barren of any kind of foliage. So ultimately, I think that's what will happen here. Everything's turning brown. There's some green. I took out my binoculars and looked, but it's all kind of going that way.
No, I just wanted to find out if I could speak,
Yes.
property since 2015. I love the trees, the oaks and this, I mean, again, you're the expert. I haven't seen any real deterioration, especially on the lower limbs. There's nothing, it's all green.
Could we have your name, please?
I'm sorry, Gary
Gary?
Larash, Laurash.
Thank you.
18 Mount Vernon Street, property owner since 2015. So anyway, I mean, it's a very, that my backyard, directly abuts that tree and all the other trees there, so.
You said the structure that's nearest that tree is your garage, is that correct?
No,
Oh.
I'm the yellow house.
Oh, I see, okay.
That tree, but the tree abuts my property line, going, I guess that's north.
Okay, yep.
So again, I just wanted to find out why you guys were thinking of taking a tree down. I hate to see trees.
Yeah,
You already took one down at the corner, which
Okay.
caused me some,
of that same lot right there?
yes, right in front of that, that tree. He took a tree down about
Okay.
3-4 years ago for whatever reason, I don't know. It was perfectly healthy. So anyway, I would prefer you not to take it, but again, you're the experts. I'm not gonna, if it's disease, it's disease. Is there any way you can put something on the tree to revitalize it or?
Anything that we could would be an inorganic treatment, and I feel like at this point, because it's already so present throughout the tree. That I wouldn't consider it to be a great effective treatment. Normally, we would treat ahead of the tree having that disease. So at this point, I don't think it would be a waste of resources, I think at this point.
Who requested the removal? You didn't.
No,
City.
It was the neighbor. So if we're looking at, so from this vantage point of the photo, it would be to the right. So I don't have an
can
address.
I get a name on that?
Sorry?
Why would that person request a removal? It doesn't affect their property.
The request was made due to the fact that the tree is declining and they were concerned about limbs or the tree.
But there's no way that tree could fall. There's a huge oak tree in front of that. I'd be more than happy to take it to my property.
Yeah.
If that tree fell, the only place it's gonna fall is on my property. Not on the property, I think that the person requested.
Sure.
it. So
I guess my argument at this point wouldn't necessarily be why they requested it. The fact that they did got me out there to actually look at this tree, recognize that it is in a state of decline. So if it was a completely full, if the canopy was completely full, if there wasn't these browning needles, then yeah, like the argument of removal wouldn't exist. And I would have told that to the resident, but because I'm recognizing this tree as in some state of decline, not in good health or vigor, that to me lends to the removal argument aside from how it was introduced to me.
it's a shame.
Dennis, did you get a good look at it?
You know, the one thing that I can say about being on this committee is that when we don't like removing trees, but when we do and there's other big trees right around it, the impact of that is really a whole lot less than I originally would have expected it to be. So my guess is when this tree is taken out, it's gonna be really hard to notice that it's not there.
I'll notice it. I'll notice it. Trust me. I sit back there in my, especially these time of days, these beautiful days with the shade and sitting on my porch in the back. I'll notice it, trust me. But again,
So one of the challenges for us is when a tree is brought to our attention, we are aware of the tree and a risk assessment is done associated with that tree. And since it is a city-owned tree, if it fell on your property, and I know you should say it's okay, but there still would be a liability associated with that if somebody was hurt, if something was damaged. So, it's incumbent upon us to take the appropriate actions.
I understand. The tree's been there for a couple 100 years, so if you want to knock it down, knock it down. It has,
And I just want to go on record, we don't take perfectly healthy trees. This committee is very, very sensitive to it, and we love trees as much as you do, because that's why we are here donating our time. So I just want to go on record saying
appreciate that. I'm not
we don't
saying-
take
yeah, I'm
perfectly
sure you
good
don't.
trees. Yeah.
And I mean,
Unless,
yeah,
so you gotta put a caveat on that. We will make arguments to take staff will make arguments to take trees down depending upon the situation.
Risk
So
assessment, right?
typically, the committee doesn't support it, so.
That's right.
so and I'll just kind of bring it back to that spruce in Langdon Park. So by the time we actually saw that, it was very much stone dead, right? Like there was zero foliage on it. It had been standing there for a little bit and it's still standing there today. There isn't, if we approve this tree's removal right now, it's not like tomorrow we're going out and removing it. So if there is, in my mind, there's no big problem because I don't think there are significant structural issues with this tree. So the potential for it to completely fail and crush someone's home is very unlikely. So at this point, if we wanted to wait a few months until all that other foliage around the tree is gone and really kind of for a passerby to get a better look at it and see really the extent of this damage, but I still think it should be removed. We can absolutely wait a little bit longer and see if a change in season brings a different perspective on it. But again, I do believe that at this point in time, there's not going to be this big change of health for this tree.
if you could do this, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
that-
like a good idea.
So that being said, what if we just say, report back in the fall
Sure.
and, make it, we can make the decision then.
Yeah, I have no, yeah,
Appreciate that.
that's fine.
That's good. I appreciate
All right.
that. Thank you.
That's,
This is the kind of stuff we do. You know, we do this kind of consensus. We love trees too, and we understand.
so we still have we make a motion to report back.
I move to make a motion, the staff report back in the fall, once the foliage is off the surrounding trees.
I'll
Second that. We all second that.
Yeah, seconded.
Deb, second.
So we're essentially tabling. this
Yeah.
one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
Aye.
But the difference between a table and an act, I was requesting an action, not a table, because you table it, it literally gets tabled and put on the shelf. In
Mm.
this case, we're reporting back,
Reporting back.
so there's an action to be taken.
Yes.
So can we be more specific though about what the fall means? Are we talking like 6 months? Are we talking
Let's
like?
just say December, the December meeting, I guess, or
Sure.
November meeting?
Yeah, because I think ultimately if we just make a motion to report back, then we don't have, it essentially becomes a table
I-
in a different way.
Sure, I thought I had said report back once the foliage was down, but we can make a specific date, we can consider a December meeting.
Okay, so do we need to amend the motion?
No, I-
We
since it was
already
my-
voted on?
My motion, and nobody had seconded it,
Yes, we did.
somebody seconded it.
Everyone
If the
did.
second, if my second would.
And we voted on it.
I second your amendment to
I think we'll-
revisit it in December.
I think we're fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
report back
Feels
in
good.
December.
December. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Maybe we could ask what trees,
Yes,
You can go ahead.
Okay. My name is Mary Karen
why
Pomfrey.
don't you? come up Again,
Musical chairs.
My name is Mary Karen Pombrian. I reside at 600 Kearsarge Way. My home is at the intersection of Kearsarge and Raleigh. I moved to 600 Kearsarge 23 years ago. When I moved in, that tree was a lanky sapling. Over the years, it has morphed into something quite, I'll call it monstrous. It has become a nuisance for me because, first of all, I didn't realize that this was a silver maple until I saw the notice posted on the tree. So, which made me look into characteristics of silver maples and discovered that, it has brittle wood, invasive roots, a lot of seed pods, etc. And I just feel it has never been managed. During my tenure at Kearsarge Way early on, it was struck by lightning. And someone from Public Works came out, I can't remember who that was, and essentially said it's not a problem. Corin Hollowell came out, I think he was new as the city arborist at the time. He came because one of the lower limbs was exhibiting oozing of some kind of goopy material, and I was very concerned. I don't know what year that was, and his comment was, we need to keep an eye on this. This tree has enveloped the street light that's right to the left of this. And it has, I will confess, when we didn't have a city arborist, I became my own arborist, trimming lower limbs. Otherwise, I think it'd be in a lot worse shape than it currently is. I'm asking that it be removed and something more in scale be considered. It's the wrong tree for where it is.
Thank you.
Who's gone out to see this tree? Yeah, my thoughts on it is that it is in good condition. I can't speak to I think when we had initially spoke or when you sent the email about the integrity of your property or the value of your property and it being a detriment to that. I can't quite speak to that, but you know, in my observations, I don't see this as a removal candidate. And in the email that I drafted to you was more along the lines of, hey, like if the leaf litter is a problem or the seed pod and just the general abundance of litter is an issue, we can do some structural pruning to remove good sized limbs and make sure that the tree overall, again, as a structural prune would suggest, would remove weakly attached branches, and that would thin out the canopy in a way that maybe it wouldn't, you know, produce so much litter for you. As far as the invasive roots, you know, I think Peter Laughlin had said several years ago, one of these meetings, that if we had a policy to remove trees for every, you know, potentially infracting tree whose roots could be or could not be damaging a structure or whatever the case is, we'd have no trees in the city. So I think that actually, in truth, this is probably a great tree for the site because we do have, I mean, that rounded sort of bump out. It's, I believe, pretty far away from most structures. The fact that it's obscuring that light pole, we can prune for that as well. But obviously pruning isn't like the only solution. And I think when it does require removal and it's showing signs of as a removal candidate, like we wouldn't ignore that and certainly remove a tree when we need to. But at this point in time, I don't agree that removal is appropriate for this tree.
I'm also, which I didn't include in my email, there's a very, I'd call it the lowest limb, that all of a sudden goes straight up. There's a very lengthy, rusty section. Did you look at that?
Not of note.
It would be on the side facing the house.
Okay.
And that is the area that Corin
Sure.
looked at some years back.
If it is growing straight up, that would tell me that it's not a great attachment to the main leader of the tree. So if we get out there and you know, we subscribe a structural prune to this, that could likely be removed in doing a structural prune on this tree. We can, you know, when we go out there to do the work, obviously we'll assess every single attachment. And if that doesn't look right and it's still oozing or it has that sort of, I can't remember the term that you just used, but if it is exhibiting some signs, if it's goopy, we can absolutely just remove that because that tells me that there's something up with that leader. So as far as taking care of that, that's easily something we can take care of with a structural prune.
How do you address how would I address all the roots that are coming up in the lawn?
I was thinking about this,
because of this.
I was thinking about this on the way. And so is it an argument of, do you maintain the grass in that immediate area? You mow, okay. Yeah, in my head, in certain circumstances, it is appropriate to line with mulch in between so we don't want to cover the tree's roots with mulch, but we can fill in the sections of grass between those raised roots. And then that way it probably, maybe it doesn't completely eliminate the need to do like weeding or anything like that. But as far as like long-term maintenance and mowing and weed whacking, that's probably going to be better for both you and the tree. Because then that, you know, potentially takes away mechanical damage incidents. Like if you're weed whacking or mowing, that could inadvertently like damage some of those roots. So it'd be good for the tree to just load it with mulch, and then that keeps the grass hopefully down in between those root rays.
So you're saying that the city would do that?
I will go and look at that specific. I was thinking about this literally on the car ride in here this morning. And that's something that if if appropriate, I have no reason to think we can't, because it's the city right of way and it's protecting a tree in the city right of way, so. Yeah, I have no reason to think we can't spare some yards of leash for something like that.
So move to have Max do some pruning and do some improvements to the base, as discussed.
It's one of the nicer looking trees in Atlantic Heights.
Yeah.
Yes,
Certainly.
I agree.
I know, I'm sorry, Mary, I agree too, and it absorbs sound and
Yeah, I was surprised at how beautiful it is.
We have,
It is.
many of us who have lived there for a long time, have become very sensitive to what some of the tree issues have been in Atlantic Heights, like invasive Norway maples,
Mhm.
and so on. And I just feel there are several other trees that have been planted, and it was kind of, again, before there was a city arborist, it was as though the city got a deal on some trees and stuck them
Yeah.
in various and sundry spots.
Norway maples were very popular, very heavily stocked in nurseries, 30, 40, 50 years ago, even as far back as over 100 years ago. So it's been a very popular urban tree for a long time. We don't really plant them too much anymore because we've seen as they get much older than this, there are more significant structural issues. But right now, again, you know, because we know that about silver maples and because we're looking at this one saying this is actually one of the good ones, that's why that it kind of bolsters my argument in my head as to why we shouldn't remove it just yet.
Does the city plant silver maples?
We don't plant them anymore, no.
Right.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah, for sure, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Can this be lopped off?
How so? Oh, like just.
Height-wise?
No, because that's called pollarding and that's not a practice we do. It's not super healthy for the tree. It's actually, it would likely cause it to stress out and potentially decline and then die. I mean, silver maples are actually really hardy. It's been done elsewhere, but that's again, just not a practice we do.
So we have a motion.
Can you repeat that motion?
To do pruning and address the base with the roots with mulch, if appropriate.
And do we get a second on that yet?
No, we have not.
So I'll second
Okay,
that.
Dennis seconds it, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I ask one more thing?
Yes, please.
Would I get some kind of notice as to when you are coming out to do this work?
I'll make a note I can communicate. Actually, we have something coming up at the end of this as a door hanger. So I could either use a door hanger or I can communicate with you via email. I believe I have your contact information there.
Okay, because I'm gonna be away for a brief period of time, but I very much would like to
Absolutely.
be there to chat further about this.
Absolutely. Absolutely, of course. I'll make that note right now.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taking
you.
the time.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Moving right along here.
And what tree do you represent?
Will Cooper, 50 Colonial Drive. Yes.
Colonial, right?
I think it's the second one on yeah, this one. Oh, go back one.
There
There we go.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Yeah, it lost, maybe a third of the canopy and I didn't actually request to have it taken down. I was hoping that an arborist would look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine, but gut reaction was it's missing like,
so an arborist did
maybe
look at it.
maybe like a fifth of that middle that where you can see that cut.
Oh.
So, but yeah, so I saw the notice and thought I'd come in.
Yeah. Do you remember when that storm damage, was it end of June, maybe?
Yeah, it was end of June.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just a windy day. It wasn't even like
Yeah.
a storm.
So we came out, I mean, it was, when we came and appeared to do the work, that tree part was like blocking more than half of the road. Like it was a pretty significant tear out. And, after inspecting the tree, it was really heavy over toward your structure and property. Our thought was, hey, let's prune this first to see if it's something that we could realistically try and align the canopy of the overall tree more central. And, you know, with that, you know, the weight distribution and taking some of the sail out of the tree for when there's another high wind scenario, maybe that will, I don't know, not protect it, not, you know, but maybe create a better structural tree in the wake of this tear. And I was driving by it a couple of times, all right, like really trying to process that, and the tear is so significant that it's probably close to about 40% of the overall circumference of the leader of the tree. It's close. I think if the tree was a lot smaller or that tear out was on something less significant, that would be appropriate to leave and say, all right, let's see what this does. We're coming up on, you know, hurricane season, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable with that in my front yard, with a very high wind scenario happening, even after all the pruning that we've done. So I regretfully put this up for removal because we did do all that work, trying to, you know, just see what that tree could look like with a reduced canopy. And even then, and Peter, if you go to the next slide, we can include some more close-up photos. So that's really kind of showing you what was lost on the profile on the left, and then right up close on the right-hand side there. I don't foresee that ever sealing over, or it would take a very, very long time. And by that point, who knows what kind of rot and decay has entered that main central leader of the tree.
Is that highly unusual?
What is?
What happened there?
Well, so little leaf lindens are notorious for tear outs. Like in the there was an address within the 300 to 400s of Colonial that also had something very similar. They just have really tight branch unions, and when it's a codominant, that was a codominant tear out, where we essentially just had two halves of that central leader kind of just go off into two
Yes.
like big parts of the tree. It just got too heavy, and yeah.
That.
So anyway, yeah, that's, yeah.
I
would
do,
say, given the replanting of
Yes.
trees that are part of that sidewalk project, take this out, put something back.
yeah,
Yeah,
I assume these lindens were part of the original planting in there.
Must have been, because that's by and large, that's still the majority tree out there.
65 years.
yeah. I must say the trees the new plants out in Panaway, they seem to be doing pretty good.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and I was one of the people that voted against the trees being taken down for the sidewalk. But being out there, I see what I see is secession kind of, you know, those big trees like yours that are going to die. We already have some new trees coming up. So I think it's a good, I learned a lot. Although I do have to say everyone I saw walking was walking in the street, but I'll just let that go. But
yeah, no,
It
we
looks
really
rustic.
appreciated saving that tree. At least we got a couple more years out of it, and yeah, I agree. It doesn't really seem there's a lot we can do. Is like, you know, just the rest of the house is one thing, but you know, someone could be walking or driving. Yeah, and I think maybe you can see it there, but it even looks like the bark is like peeling, coming off a
Yeah,
little bit.
so-
that's
Yeah, and that's a good point too. So even though, and you can kind of see it on the sort of left and right of the tear out when you're looking straight on at it, the photo on the right. The damage isn't just the tear out. There's also, it extends maybe a couple of inches into the inside. So there is that separation of bark, even beyond that roughly 40% loss of tree right there. So yeah, the damage is a little bit more extensive than what it puts on right here. That's a good point.
and do you have any advice about trees to put in? I was thinking, because we have an arbor vitae
Yeah.
in the corner of the house that's looking like it's, I don't know, a couple of stems aren't happy.
Yeah.
So I was gonna try to get some new trees in, so you know, so hopefully they start growing before we lose that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can, so at least for the right of way, we can, as soon as spring of 2026, get 1 or 2 trees in there, depending on what's really available to us once that tree is removed. And then as far as anything on your, like if you wanted to do something on your property, we can coordinate, and we wouldn't put something in that conflicts with yours. So, apple cedar rust is a big deal. There's a tree across the street from you, which is a hawthorn, and it's covered in apple cedar rust, that only happens when there are two hosts of that fungal disease. So we wouldn't want to put something in there that would conflict that way, but then also if you were planning on doing something in your front yard, we wouldn't want to obscure that with a tree in the right of way. So again, we can just coordinate that and
Okay.
make that
Yeah,
work for both of
that
us.
sounds good.
Cool. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion,
Motion on the floor to remove the tree.
Second.
seconded by Deb.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you send out, like, do you post when you're gonna come take it? Cause I should make sure that car's.
Yeah, I will put out one of the door hangers. It has my contact info. And then, yeah, we can touch base and make something work with your schedule.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
very much. Okay, back to the list.
Yeah, so still in Colonial, 239 Colonial Drive. This Eastern Red Cedar here is, as you can see, the home is currently being renovated and the new owner is requesting this because they are making changes to their driveway. And her argument was and this, this tree it's been subordinated or stunted by that very large linden on the other side of the driveway. So her argument is if we remove that, we can actually move the driveway away from the linden and, further protecting it from not protecting it, but potentially eliminating some impact from construction. And
Good homeowner input. I would put a motion on the floor to take that tree down.
We have a second?
I'll
Dennis? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
hey,
I just want to say that
Yeah.
I don't look at this as a convenience cut for a driveway.
okay,
I just want to say that.
yeah, the tree.
Make that very clear.
It's not if it was a specimen tree or if it was, I marked it as fair condition, it's totally fine, but you can see that it has been, like its growth has been stunted.
Yeah.
By that linden. And to me, it does make sense, like that linden is very large and mature. It'd be a shame to have a big machine come in and cause a whole lot of root damage to
Yeah,
that. so.
I agree with all that. I just want to make sure that.
For
on
sure.
Record
No,
saying that.
yes.
I don't cut trees to make driveways by and large.
16 Barberry. So if you all recall, we removed a large dead ash from the
Mhm.
property. You can kind of see the stump right there on the right-hand side. And yeah, so it's definitely more exposed than before. You can kind of see that it is somewhat stressed out. It is sending out suckers along the main stem and kind of in that midsection of the canopy there, and it is somewhat declining. Yeah, the resident requested we also remove it. And I agree, only because there's not good pruning that we can do to correct anything at this point. This photo is a pretty good illustration of that. So my first thought was if we take off some of those more left, the leaning upper portions of the canopy, but then that's cutting about 50% of the total tree's canopy, which then would stress it out even further. So it's kind of, if we take care of or like prune for the lean and get some of that dead wood, that's a little bit more right in the upper top part of the tree. Again, I think it would just send that tree into even more distressed state and then just not great for the tree.
Agreed.
Yes. We have,
Agree. Would this be a good place to maybe do, would we replace something in that space or what do you
I
think?
don't
Matt?
think
He's got a
so.
nice garden going.
Yeah.
You're right, nice garden going. I was thinking more about our
And it's a
lilac.
very wooded area.
I
So-
totally agree too, Peter, but
And the resident, they just want us to grind the stumps and then they'll do whatever. They'll just take care of it as a garden, as Michael said, they'll just, enhance that.
okay, so do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right, 4 Pin Oaks on Russell Street, so all all poor condition. There are 4 individual photos for each tree, but they don't really, they're all kind of close up and a little bit harder to discern. So these all are covered with galls that just shut down the branch beyond. So I'm sure you've all seen it, but
Yeah.
where it's covered in galls, the very ends of that branch are just not foliate, like there's no foliage. There's been tear outs and the one tree that doesn't have any galls has no central leader, like it's been torn out, it's been broken. So yeah, I think with all of the work that's happening down on Russell, I think this is a good opportunity to pull these out and get something else in there afterward. And we'll kind of see that again for Russell and Deer next, but at least for these, I mean, we can prune out all those gall branches, but we would be left with twigs for 3 out of the 4, and then that 4th one is just not, I don't think
So
that
is
was
this a bad choice?
Yeah, so does the gall come from the tree being stressed out?
No, it's an insect. So the insect will will put an egg inside, that gall will be created, and that creates a, right, I believe is that kind of the?
I don't know much about this gall.
Yeah, it's horned oak gall, I believe is what it, don't quote me, but yeah, so usually bug will put their egg in it, the gall will be formed. It'll create essentially like, think about it like a bubble. You can cut into these and they're gonna be sometimes hollow, sometimes a little woody, but it's a reaction that the tree has to being essentially bitten by this bug. And it apparently this one just shuts down the branch that it's attached to. So the fact that there are dozens on a single branch tells me that, there's just no, I mean, it's rough. And if we were to just prune off every instance of this gall, there would be nothing left.
Did they insect each other?
Yeah, so the 4 of them being so close together, this is the argument, and we'll see this again for Deer and Russell, where it's just nothing but pear. We're creating an environment where there's a lot of environmental stressors, and the close proximity of these trees is just, they are passing the pest along to each of these trees. So culturally not great, but anyway.
Looking
that's-
forward at the replacement plan,
Okay, yeah, same,
it's gonna be a canyon with the new buildings that are coming.
agreed.
So limited sunlight's gonna be an issue.
I don't know if there's, and this is, so not discovered, but I recognize these as tree removal candidates, not because of this project. I don't think there's anything on the books now to incorporate silvacells or do CU soils, but
Mhm.
my understanding is that there's there's more capital funding for that, for
There
trees,
is, yes.
specifically for trees. So
Yep.
this would be a great site if this isn't incorporated into the Deer and Russell Street work. This would be a great site for Public Works to use some of that capital funding to try out some silvacells or CU soil.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And it's interesting because, those trees were probably planted when the Sheridan was built.
Right.
Yes.
And that was what, 30,
I
40
go
years
with,
ago?
I go with 35, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
would
mean,
too.
they really haven't thrived.
No,
No.
no.
No,
I never would have thought they were that old.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because some of the other pin oaks, is that the one by Papa Wheelies?
Oh, yeah.
It's doing crazy great.
Yeah.
It's really amazing specimen for that space. I don't know.
That's a sweet gum.
There's this week coming. The corner there for that.
Yeah. One that got run
Um,
over?
No, that one's still there.
Still from-
There are
Speaking
a
of which, we
few
need to
there
get
though.
that tree placed, one that got run over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay,
All right,
do we
so
have
the
a
motion, I motion to remove these trees.
Second.
Second by Michael.
Yep.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi. Are you here for any tree in particular today?
Atlantic Heights tree.
Atlantic Heights Tree, 600 Kearsarge?
When, were you did you do it already? Of course you did.
Yeah.
Sorry. I did not get here. What happened?
We voted.
Stay of execution.
Not to stay back.
What? It's not,
Stay of execution.
it's not being removed?
It's not being
No.
removed.
No.
No. Oh, I did good, didn't I?
You were talking in favor of the tree. All right.
I was standing there at the side when people were driving.
Okay.
I'm surprised more people didn't come and support that tree.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get that many people. There's a lot of people up there.
Hmm.
but I would get them when I was walking or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
I
thank
got out front and I forgot I had this big rug on my car this morning.
We
I
chose
can't
to.
Move.
The tree will stay.
Restore.
We're gonna stay, we're gonna do a little pruning to it. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we all rake leaves, you know. I'm just, I don't know what to say about, oh, I love your blouse. It's a fish house. That's wonderful. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear
Okay.
that it stayed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming by.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
I tried.
All right, so Deer Street at Russell Street, so this tree in particular, with that, I guess like we can move on from the obvious that it's not doing super great. It's, yeah, well, but this will be removed because the intersection will be realigned and moved around. So ultimately, aside from the obvious, it will be removed in addition for the sidewalk, for the intersection.
And Bartlett pear is not, that's not a good urban
No.
tree anymore. That's out.
It is not.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
And that's what I
we
thought.
do not plant them anymore.
Good,
We don't
okay.
even, yeah.
Just wanted to confirm my notion.
Do we have a motion to
Make a
remove?
motion to remove it.
Dennis,
Second.
by Michael, now all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Max, I just sometimes can't figure out where you see these trees. Like,
So,
Wait. I show up, I'm like, yeah.
so it's not gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be very obvious if you are on Deer Street looking down this right of way, because all of them are Callery or Bradford pears, and they all look like this or worse. These two trees specifically are being removed because Eversource needs to, related to that intersection, run new underground conduit to a box that's just on the other side. Can't quite see it in the photo, but there's an underground utility box in the sidewalk area that is for the electrical, for the streetlights and for the traffic lights as well. So that needs to be upgraded for this new intersection. And that's why, in addition to the fact that these two trees are in poor condition, should be removed.
Are they putting a traffic light there?
Yeah, that whole intersection is being redone.
There's not gonna be a traffic signal.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I thought there was going to be one.
Instead of, it's the intersection's being realigned to be a T intersection instead of that sweeping.
Yeah.
So it'll narrow the paved asphalt, it'll make it safer for pedestrians. It's gonna be a much better intersection.
So I filled in the traffic light when they had talked about, it's for the street lamps.
Okay, I was gonna say,
My
like,
apologies, I misspoke on
I've
that.
never once thought that that intersection needed a.
Needing a street light, yeah.
Signal.
Traffic signal. There we go.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Second,
I'll second it.
Dennis, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Woodbury,
Another Bradford pear, not, as you can see, very similar to those on Deer Street. The homeowner, the resident requested the removal of this, and we already have plans to put in a European hornbeam in its place.
Great.
Lovely
Yeah,
choice. Very nice.
it'll be I'm gonna try and locate some fastigiate varieties so that they grow just a little bit smaller and tighter. But I'm trying to remember the name of this resident. She loves trees and we talk about them every so often, but
It's a good choice.
yeah, she likes that tree, so.
I'll make a motion to remove the Bradford pear.
and who would like to second it?
Second.
Thank you, Michael.
Very happy about the horn.
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cater Park, one box elder, marked it as fair condition only because, I guess, well, box elder, kind of a weedy tree. That's not fair to say. It's a very vigorous and adaptable tree. And it's growing in the fence of Cater Park. But on the next slide, Peter, you'll see that there is a structural defect right in the center. So it's not the worst looking included bark or the fact that it's, the multi-stem nature, but because it's right over the playground.
We don't like those targets.
What's that?
We don't like those targets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and also, box elders or Acer Nagunda, those are pretty weak wooded, like they do break pretty easily. So thinking about this defect and the fact that it is over all the targets, not a great tree for this site.
Hmm. Could you see other things being planted around, there? It's just,
It's
the
rough.
shade is so, some moms did kind of mention, they love the shade, they see it.
It's difficult because it's growing in the space right next to a fence. So if we were to put something back, it would be, we're exchanging some of that playground space to plant a tree and then trying to keep kids off of it and all that, like, we can absolutely still get something in there, but it would be us taking up some of that playground space.
Is the corner like
We could look at
beyond that?
Look at the potential for a shade structure, as an alternative.
Well, I know that's my neighborhood and that's a really well-used
Yeah.
playground and people really enjoy it. So,
No, we know, we get feedback quite often, so.
just reiterating the feedback.
But one of the things we struggle with is keeping our fence lines clear. This should not have happened,
Absolutely.
period.
Right.
They really, had we been paying attention, it would have, we would have cut it. It wouldn't exist.
Yeah, they just pop up. I had one growing out of a viburnum on the side of our house.
I believe it.
What is that?
It's because it's undisturbed. It's a great spot. It's probably, it's a nice pot of soil. So yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to remove?
I like it.
Ian, thank you. Second,
I'll second it.
Dennis, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So next we have, oh no, you're good.
You know,
There we go, there we go.
So 2 Norway maple at Lincoln and McNabb. So I don't know, so this kind of relates back to the hackberry that you showed me earlier. We have some sweet gum that it's just almost like this season or earlier this year, something environmentally, just a weird weather pattern shifted or occurred, because I remember these trees being totally fine last spring. Unless someone had different eyes on it, like at the end of last year. But in my memory, nothing about these 2 trees stood out that would have suggested they would look like this.
They both have all the fine twigs on there, so it had to be really recent.
Yeah, so again, kind of thinking back to what weird weather or environmental stress, like one stressful event that could have happened in the spring. Again, it happened to a lot of our sweet gum, like almost all of our sweet gum had some form of this and recovered with different degrees. So on Maplewood and Deer, there were those 4 sweet gum planted. Half of them look kind of like this or like your hackberry. So we're finding trees like this. And again, I can't point to some kind of disease or anything else because there's no signs of anything else. It's just this, there were those little twigs and now there's nothing. So.
And so no opportunity for bounce back?
I think this is the bounce back.
Oh, you think this is the bounce back?
I think I've been looking at these trees for a couple of months and there was nothing on them for like 2 months ago, there was nothing on them. And then finally, this is all it puts out and
I was pretty shocked when I came around the corner and saw this. I thought there would be more of a judgment and more debate over it, but.
So the oak, there's 2, white oaks, just down this way from that.
Yeah.
Which seemed to have a similar response.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's the only thing that I think can explain it, because it's touching upon different genus of trees. It's not just Norway maples are only impacted by this, but there are also Norway maples right next to these 2 trees that are totally fine too.
Yes.
So I'm chalking it up to a little bit of environmental stress overall, and then one event just snapped them to this state.
And
This is good opportunity for replacement.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep, absolutely.
well, sadly, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to remove these 2 trees.
Second.
Dennis and Michael, and all in favor?
Aye.
So that was.
So we're on to 196 South Street, so.
I'm gonna recuse myself from discussion on this.
What you do to this tree? Oh,
So this is a bit of a resident request. I've been working with this resident. I know him very well.
He's a tree lover.
I think.
It's a weeping linden. It's not, I do not think it's a little leaf linden.
No, it's not.
That's the best that I could do. I don't know if there was a specific cultivar that was planted here. It could be a Tilia cordata, but I don't know if it's something else. But it's not, it is inappropriate for the site because we were gonna come in and start doing some pruning for the road and the structure. And by the time we've done that, the tree is gonna be, it's gonna be like a pencil and it's gonna, you know, I kind of blow it up maybe 10 years down the road when it's that much taller and that much closer to the power lines. It's just gonna be, we're gonna try and fit like a size 12 foot into like a size 6 shoe. Like it's just not, it's not really ever going to fit, and nor will it be like a very strong structural tree because of all the pruning we're gonna have to do.
And the
So-
lines are going both directions.
I believe they're kind of running with South Street here. So eventually, again, you know, it's not. I was kind of illustrating like in maybe 10, 15 years, something like that. Then
Yeah,
the
they-
tree is gonna have to be really lopped from the top. So
Yeah.
it's like if we do this pruning and we make it into that sort of cylindrical look to kind of fit it into this site, eventually then someone else is gonna come through and just be like, okay, now you're done from the top, which is then gonna blow out all of that foliage. Like it's gonna then want to try and push more foliage out of the space that we just pruned it to fit. So we're always gonna be fighting it. Again, not a great choice for the site, unfortunately.
It's like that silver maple on Hawthorne. It's
striped maple,
striped, I'm sorry. you're-
Oh, yes,
exactly
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
If Harold Whitehouse could vote from the grave, that tree would be gone.
I get a lot of complaints from drivers pulling up because the branches are constantly
Sure.
dropping down and blocking sight distances.
Yeah, that's.
Box
good.
trucks and stuff come
Yeah.
flipping in.
Right, the box,
Okay.
trying to see.
And it is bouncing against my house.
Okay.
It's been pruned again, because I had to have the house painted and it got pruned to get painted and then everything's right back onto
It's
it.
vigorous, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So would this be an opportunity for a replant? Is that what we're thinking, or you
No,
just
sir,
would
but-
not?
We'll have to find, if we do
I
go
would
with a
like-
replant, we'd have to find something very, like,
Select-
very tight, like very,
Kind of.
like columnar,
Columnar, yeah.
very, very tight, and probably not like, you know, maturing at like 20-25 feet at most, like something really, really small.
The homeowner likes the tree there because it stops cars from driving right into the house. So-
Yeah.
Still, that is something to value.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I will make that motion for removal.
Michael,
This is a great example, excuse me.
I'll second it.
Deb has seconded, yes, Peter?
Now you can vote and then I'll.
We did.
We have,
No, do we have a vote? Can,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, lost my.
This is an interesting, when people say, I'll never live to see, a tree come back. There used to be a very large silver maple at that location, really big. And it had mosquito infestation and it was really dying. But, so we took it out and it's like, well, we'll never see anything grow. And this thing just like took off. And there's another, I think it's a Chinese elm down on the other side of my driveway that is very well established now. And that was also put in at the same time.
Ah.
So.
Hmm.
And they're both, so they come back, I mean, yes, it's 20 years, but it's, it's faster than one would think.
You have thriving soil.
Well, your girls will be anxious to see what we'll have.
it's too well, man.
Okay, so that's it for tree removals. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I have a 9 o'clock meeting.
Oh,
All the heavy lifting's been done, Mike.
You're
Thank
excused,
you,
Michael.
Alright, so I'll just bring these around. So the next item is just, so we have kind of a representation of these door notices. I've realized that there is a need for additional, actually.
I love the QR code.
So yeah, we've been seeing In our solid waste stream, we've been seeing more knotweed being brought in from residents. The purpose of the knotweed notification is to just inform residents. And I will, as I canvass the city looking for our knotweed sites for treatment anyway, I always add onto the inventory where it is on private property. So the idea is that I will put these on doors of residents who have it, and then in hopes that they do not cut it down and put it into our solid waste stream, because then a lot of that yard waste gets brought to York Woods to be turned into other mulch and like other products that they can, so they would reject it. We would then be fined and then brought back to Public Works anyway. And then all of that ends up in a landfill where it won't be turned into other products. So for us, this will be good to inform residents, hey, you have knotweed, this is how you can treat it, this is what the city does. And just a little blurb about what knotweed is if they have they might not even know what they've got. So
Right.
that's the purpose of the knotweed door hanger.
Excellent. This is a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Very comprehensive.
Yeah, that's so it links to a New Hampshire state article about the treatment and just the general care of knotweed, essentially. The
Is this
care
part
is kind of a funny way
Is
to
this
say
part
it.
of the intern project?
No, that's something that's been published by the state for the last like 4 or 5 years or something. I think it was 2019 when that was published, but it's a really comprehensive, this is how you.
Just invasive species.
Mhm.
Doug.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah, that's Doug's, yeah.
You know Doug? Cool. Yeah, no, yeah, that's the resource that I use to, I don't know, remind myself about how nasty knotweed is.
Mm.
So
And so when it comes to other invasives like bittersweet, is it still the practice is to cut it, bag it dark and?
I don't know.
know.
I'm not
People
entirely
sometimes-
sure.
Yeah, it's
I
just,
know I infrequently get calls about bittersweet treatment, but it's not something that's like a focal point for us at this point. It could, hopefully at one point we get it to a place where knotweed isn't this big,
Mm.
like as big of a problem as it currently is, and then we can focus on things like bittersweet or Phragmites, but those kind of pale in comparison to what potential environmental harm that they can cause compared to knotweed,
yeah.
in my view.
I mean, bittersweet's terrible, but
Yeah.
the treatment's, you know.
The treatment is you cut it and
You
leave
cut it
it.
and leave it, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a little easier than, you know, you cut knotweed and it just
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah, bittersweet certainly comes back, but not to the same, extent that knotweed will. It's that root system that really
Not,
drives.
do we have that, the Runlet May next to my fence? I think you
I
might
don't
wanna
know.
peek over the fence.
don't know.
I think you may,
You
because
think it is?
I've driven by and I've seen what looks like knotweed in that area.
Me too. I'm confused between that and bamboo sometimes.
Yeah, they look very similar, and we have people, I mean, we have signage down at the recycling center that says no bamboo or knotweed of any kind, just because there are native knotweeds that
Mhm.
look somewhat similar, but
Hmm.
we are just not accepting anything that even looks remotely like it.
So I
we'll
would
pull that
definitely
out.
put one of these at the Runlet May, put it in their mailbox, then
I haven't sent those,
Spinning,
yeah,
whatever,
once,
yeah.
yeah, if,
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on.
yeah, yeah.
It gets established and it just is terrible.
It is. They do take it down every couple of years.
Taking it down is the worst thing to do.
That's what they do. That's how they make
It is the worst, it is the absolute worst thing to do.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, be good.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
Yeah, you need to either you need to suffocate it,
right.
blanket it, but that doesn't work. I mean, we've buried it 10 feet down and
Really?
it comes back.
So the only
Impressive.
thing that works is something we're not supposed to use.
Well, glyphosate,
Mhm.
Roundup,
Yeah.
if used at the appropriate times, meaning, you know, non-pollination times, can be very effective. And you don't do like broad spraying, you
Right.
hit, you know, you hit it directly on there.
Right.
there are
And that's how it works,
And you
right?
can, you can,
It goes
you can
through
snip
the
it and
roots.
drip it into the stalk.
Right, that's the.
very
most
time,
really
it's
effective.
incredibly time consuming,
Very time.
very,
consuming.
very time consuming, but it's.
You don't have to do aerial spray.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah, so there's that foliar spray that Peter's talking about where you're spraying the foliage. It gets absorbed through the foliage into the stem, into the root system. Yeah, that's,
But once you
Yeah.
do it, you don't, you know, the Route 33 bicycle path had a significant established area. And we hit it the first year, it knocked it back 95%, second year a little bit, and now it's just like a little here or there, and it's just very minor control.
Yeah,
So once you get it, the glyphosate works really well.
yeah,
Well, that's-
for sure.
I know some people on, especially on like fences have tried just black plastic coverage of, you know, if you cut it, then that still takes 5+ years of
You
doing that.
gotta do it for a long time.
Effectively, I think what's happened, like, so this is me thinking about like what that's doing to the plant. So you're suffocating it, and then it's also
The rhizomes that are,
it has to like, I feel like it's essentially cooking or like making that soil too warm, because you have all of that decomposing material from the mulch that's insulating that warmth, but then you have the very thick black, you know, weed barrier that's keeping it suppressed. So it's really just, but again, if you have a really big colony of knotweed and those roots are going 10 feet down, it's the root systems are so like intricate and dense that it's really difficult to do the barrier stuff, because it just doesn't get every
Get to
root.
the
well, if you
roots,
look at,
yeah.
the TP property, this up on Banfield
Yeah,
Road,
yeah.
where the TP used to be. We had a colony of knotweed there that we had to deal with. We buried it 10 feet down, capped it, and it's been, what, how many years?
For my time.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's reestablished.
So
It's
that,
come-
so I've been to that property,
Yeah.
not knowing what that was for, and I've seen it, and it is covered in knotweed.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
still covered in knotweed.
Yep.
So, anyway, so,
Thank you. These
Yeah,
are
this-
well.
yeah,
Oh,
okay,
love
great.
this.
great.
Does this go on the city's website?
It will be,
It'll be associated with the website, our page. It's also goes out into the newsletter.
Good.
Oh, good.
So it's, this is
That's great.
intended to be
Shared.
shared and
Okay.
put out there for folks.
That's great. Okay.
and then finally, just the other one, we had an unfortunate run-in where we were just doing work on a city right-of-way tree that was planted by the city and maintained by the city, but a resident came out thinking we were pruning one of their private trees. And we've had instances like that in the past, but this one really was like, hey, we should have a way to inform people, but it is really difficult, especially when we're in a location like Colonial, where we have a whole lot of right-of-way trees, and we've gotten one request like, hey, there's a lot of like our sidewalks or roads. There are some trees that are really low. So when I get a request like that, I go into the entire neighborhood, I canvass around looking for trees that are low, and tell the crew like, hey, I found these 20 sites in something like Colonial, and say, we need to go out there and raise these. So raising is when we just get that, the city infrastructure for a sidewalk is about 8 feet of clearance, depending. And then for a road, it's something like 12 or greater. We usually shoot for around 12 to 13, depending on what the tree is. So when we go out there, we find all of our right-of-way trees and prune, but there's no notification, because it's a job that we do at the end of a day, when there isn't time to start a bigger project. It's one of those filler projects where we can spend an hour or two out here and prune, 3 or 4 of these city trees, and then revisit it as time allows. In this incident, again, it wasn't like the resident specifically requested this work, but we recognized the need for work on this city tree. So we just, again, going through, started pruning it. The resident comes down and is very upset. And again, that highlighted the need, like, all right, we also have issues with pruning private greenery, because it's really hard to get a hold of people or get their permission ahead of time, because we show up to do the work. Because that kind of work it doesn't work really well to be structured into our schedule. It's a very good filler project. So for us, if I go out and see that there's a low shrub somewhere that's on someone's private property, but it's in our sidewalk, I can drop one of those off. I can tick off the box and say, we want to do this work for this reason. It's on your private tree. If you call me, we can talk about it. If you don't, that implies that, you're okay with us pruning to what's required for the city infrastructure. And the same works there for the right-of-way trees. So if it's if it's not obvious that it is a right-of-way tree, so usually there's a sidewalk and then the road, and in between is the green strip. I think most residents will agree that that's like a city tree, it's in the right of way. The instance that I was just referring to, there was no sidewalk. So it looked like it was just a part of this resident's front yard. Even after showing them our tree inventory, it was a 10-foot right of way into their property.
Yeah.
And this tree was very much so on the right of way. So yeah, having said that, I think the need to have some kind of notice for both that private greenery work and also in instances where it may not be so obvious that we need to work on a city tree in a space like that. So that's that
Wow.
need right there too, so.
Thank you.
I like this a lot, 'cause as much as I like to think people go to the city, and people are going to the city site more, the website, City of Portsmouth, much more. It's laid out better. It's more user friendly. It's just really come a long way. But they don't. A lot of people don't. So this is
Max, is there a generic email address or something for your position? Just noting that that doesn't have an email that somebody can reach out to. I don't know if it makes sense to have like an arborist at City of Portsmouth, whatever email address.
Probably
that-
says something like, that's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I see no reason why we couldn't set up a general trees at City of Portsmouth. Trees at portsmouthnh.gov.
Mhm.
That's a really good idea. I never thought about that.
Do we have any other comments on old business? Old business, I say the meeting is adjourned.
great.
Thank
Good
you
meeting.
very much.
Good meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Really good work. Good work. And I love the picture.